Hey guys, welcome back to Zmari Talks. I am your host, Zmari, and it is such an honor to be here with you. I've just been meditating lately on a phenomenal concept when it comes to fear. And fear is something that we all face in life in our journey. But the thing about fear is that it shows up in so many different ways that we don't recognize how fear is actually keeping us back or restraining us in our lives. And this is something that I've just been observing in persons as of lately, just observing in mankind, observing in myself, because I feel as though God has been taking me on this journey of eliminating fear in my own life. Anytime something seems intimidating to me, anytime something is new and uncomfortable, and you feel like wanting to quit or not go through the process of becoming a master at something, I have been recognizing the mindset that surrounds this fear or this mindset that surrounds this discomfort that is making me feel as though I'm not equipped or I'm not adequate enough to fulfill a role or a function in my life. And just last night, I woke up and I was just meditating on this with God. And there are certain things that I recognize that fear shows up as. And I wanted to discuss that with us today. The reason why is because I want us to be able to look in our own lives and identify fear, identify the mindsets that we have that surrounds fear. Let's get started. One way that could indicate fear in our lives, and this is something that is easy to spot, that we can easily identify, and that is the inability to move forward. Because most times what happens is that because of fear, we are unable to take a step forward. Faith is a forward action. Faith and belief and hope is a forward action. But when it comes to fear, we find ourselves, if you know anything about expression, we find ourselves actually moving back. Like, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want to take this step. Looking at our own lives, what steps or what things that have you always wanted to do in your life that has been making you take these steps back and not a step forward? I could tell you one plain example of this in my life is my driver's permit. And the reason why I highlight that is because I have attempted to get my driver's permit so many times. I've gotten the learner's permit, and I just never did the exam. I just never completed it. I've spent so much money over the years just getting my learner's permit, but not completing it to get my driver's permit. And people would be like, why? You're getting older. Why are you taking so long to get your driver's permit? But what I had to identify in my life is that I had a negative mindset when it comes to my driver's permit. There was some fear there when it came to that. And now, while I'm in the process of actually accomplishing that or moving forward in getting it, I now have to take steps of faith. So my entire mindset around accomplishing this thing has changed. Why? Because it's more of a faith step for me, not just a faith step in accomplishing it, but a faith step as in, okay, there are certain things that I need to do in this season of my life. While I did not necessarily need to get a driver's permit then, but in this season, I need to accomplish these things. So now there's more faith, there's more need, there's more necessity that is attached to getting this thing. So guess what? Because there's more necessity, I am willing to endure the process of that change, to endure the process of the discomfort or the fear or the apprehension that I would have had in accomplishing this goal. Another way that fear shows up in our lives is in our need for control. So much of us, I don't know, but I could say for myself for sure, so much of us try to just control things, people, and situations all the time because we're scared. Think about yourself in your own life. Is there areas of your own life that you can say, hey, I have an unnecessary area of control. Like I am trying to dictate and control this thing way too much in my own life or control people in a particular type of situation way too much that is causing conflict And it's only because of fear. It's the same thing that happened in my life when I was going through my career in banking. When I felt as though, okay, leaders are not making good decisions, they are not considering me at all or considering my coworkers at all in their decision making. It's affecting persons. I used to try to get them to understand so much our perspective or to see things in a different way. I used to try so much to explain to them that they can try another route. And that caused a lot of conflict in my career when it comes to leaders, because now here's a junior staff who's trying to dictate the pace of a senior. And they are already making a decision, probably with more information than I would have had. But because I'm looking at it and seeing how I may be affected by this decision making, out of that fear, I'm trying to control the environment. I'm trying to control the outcome. When things happen around us, it doesn't directly mean that it's going to impact us negatively. We always have to find a way to navigate and reroute and figure out how we're going to get through or get out of things. Now, in my career, my decision making and my approach is different. I'm no longer in the place of expecting somebody else to make this thing happen to me. Actually, I am taking my steps forward. I am doing what I need to do to move myself into the positions and into the places that I believe will benefit me in the long run, and not expecting that somebody else can do it. I'm not trying to control or dictate anybody else's actions. Rather, I'm actually rerouting my own actions, because the only person that I have control over is myself, is who I am, it's my internal compass, my mindset, my perspective, my growth. I have control over me. The thing about control is that it can be very manipulative. Now you're actually trying to control outcomes for your own benefit, or because you think that your idea is better than someone else's. But we don't see it like that, because usually it's just fear. It's just that emotional fear that we're experiencing that is making us become so meticulous in our approach. But really and truly, it's coming off as manipulative, because you're just trying to get a particular outcome, either for your benefit or because you think that your idea or your perspective is better. Now, you can attach an emotive reasoning to that and say, no, I'm doing it because it will better everyone. But what makes you think that the outcome or the decision that is being had will not benefit everyone? Maybe it won't. But what also makes you think that you are responsible to make that thing happen for everyone else? Who has put that onus on you? So sometimes when we have this desire for control so much, it makes us come up as very manipulative. And we have to deal with that fear inside of us, because now other people are being impacted by this approach that we're taking. The other thing with fear is that fear can make us sabotage things, especially self-sabotage. There are many opportunities that we are faced with in life. And I can tell you that I myself have sabotaged a lot of opportunities by not seeing the value of that opportunity. I've been able to meet and been introduced to a number of persons. And just because I was afraid of appearing this way, or being labeled in a particular way, because I was afraid, I actually sabotaged myself, because I didn't want to affect nobody else. I didn't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. But really and truly, those persons are not even thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves and how they can get ahead as well. So the whole thing about this fear is that we have to be able to recognize, am I sabotaging myself? Am I sabotaging an opportunity? Am I sabotaging someone else to get an outcome, or to not get an outcome, or not to be painted in a particular way? What areas of my life can I look at and see where, okay, this is actually hurting me? This way is actually hurting me. It's counterproductive to the outcome that I want. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to fear is that fear kept the wrong people in my life for long periods of time. Fear actually attracts a lot of toxicity. And the reason why I say it like that is because when you come into a situation with fear, the appearance of confidence, competence, and certainty is what you would lean to. But it does not necessarily mean that there is confidence, competence, and certainty because you're not looking at it from a clear perspective, because you're not discerning. Fear is making you now attach yourself to people and relationships that are not actually helpful for you. It lets you put your guard down because what you are trying to do in fear is feel the certainty, is to feel confident, is to feel competent. So you're leaning on people who appear to be this way, but really and truly, they may not even have any interest in you at all. They're seeing your weakness and they want to exploit that. We cannot use fear as a lens to make our decisions through. It is not a healthy lens to make your decisions through. You might say, Z, you're talking about all of these different things. Where's the biblical reference? And I want you all to look at the life of Saul. You know, when Saul was going to be appointed king, he was tall, he was handsome, he was all of these different things. And when it was the time that he was going to be appointed king by Samuel over the children of Israel, Saul went and hid. They found him hiding. He was significantly insecure, questioning himself. He lived in seasons of fear. Because he lived in seasons of fear, he started to sabotage. He started to sabotage himself from the role of being king. Because he didn't have a clear perspective. He wasn't confident. He didn't feel as though he had the competence. And even if he didn't feel as though he had the competence, he didn't have a rooted identity in who God has created him to be enough to be able to trust God's decision making in appointing him as king. And when we look at the contrast of David, David just went as a servant to carry food for his brothers who were actually fighting in a war against Goliath and the Philistines. And David walks into this army's camp, looking at the situation, hearing Goliath combating and talking trash basically against the children of Israel. And David has a certainty. He has a confidence. He has competence. Why? Because he's had certain trainings that he has gone through when he's just been a shepherd boy trying to protect sheep, where he had defeated a lion, he had defeated a bear. He has some type of track record for that he can lean on where he can say, I am competent in this area. Even though I'm not skilled as a soldier, I'm competent enough to trust that even in these situations where God helped me to defeat these two animals that were greater than me, stronger than me, that God could help me to defeat this Philistine, who is a giant who's coming against the children of Israel. David understood that his confidence wasn't just in himself, his confidence was in God. He had a different approach. He said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine who comes against the armies of the living God? He understood that it wasn't about him. He understood that he was fighting someone who was coming against God himself. So guess what? He was able to walk in with confidence, with competence, and with certainty because he had already lived this. He had a track record where God showed up and fought on his behalf and empowered him to defeat certain things in his life. He was not coming from a perspective of fear. David was anointed as king as well. Here's a different approach between Saul and David. David was anointed as king. When he saw his contenders, he said, listen, you're going up against the armies of the living God. You're going to be defeated today. And here is Saul going to be anointed as king, and Saul is hiding in the back. Fear lived out in Saul's life for his entire career. His entire career, where Saul started to listen to the wrong people. When God removed the anointing of king from Saul, Saul refused to move. He started to listen to men, ill advisors. He started to listen to about his career. Why? Because there was fear in Saul's life. There was fear in Saul's life that Saul sabotaged himself right to the end, tied himself to the wrong relationships right to the end, manipulated situations so that he can kill David right to the end. Right to the end. When he was supposed to go to be anointed, he didn't go. Right to the end. His entire life, Saul lived in fear. What does this tell you as an individual? It tells you that you make the weakest, poorest decisions when you operate from a place of fear. That it's not safe to trust fear. So here's your question to me now, Z. How do I combat fear? How do I get fear out of my life? Now, you might think the opposite of fear. What is the opposite of fear? Then it has to be fear, but it's not. The opposite of fear is love. And the reason why love is the opposite of fear is because love comes with acceptance, it comes with identity, and it comes with purpose. I am accepted because I am loved thoroughly, through and through. I don't need to question myself because I'm already loved. I am certain in who I am because I don't need to question myself because I'm already accepted in all of who I am. My brokenness, my strengths, my weaknesses, my personality, and my identity. I'm already accepted and certain of who I am because I am loved just the way I am. I'm confident because now that I am accepted, I don't need to question myself. I don't need to question anything concerning me. So I'm confident in the person that I am. And I also have purpose because now there's a meaning for me. There's a reason for me being loved. There's an identity for me being loved. Now that I am loved, I can give and express this love. I don't need to be afraid of being all of who I am called to be because I am loved. And when we get this identity rooted in us, we would find that we will no longer be hesitant to move forward because we're not operating from a place of fear. We're operating from a place of acceptance, confidence, and purpose. We will find that we're not looking to control things. We're now actually looking from a place of learning and understanding and discernment and wisdom. Because now love sees through a different lens. It sees through compassion. It sees through joy. It sees through peace. The lens of love is different. I'm no longer sabotaging myself or looking to sabotage myself because I have a purpose. I have a meaning. So I'm not going to do things that are counterproductive to this purpose that I'm called to live. And I'm not looking to attach myself to things, places, and people, relationships that are not going to allow me to feel loved and express this love. I'm not going to attach myself to relationships that is going to be counterproductive for the identity that I have through love. So being rooted in that identity of love is very important for us to live a life that is fearless, that is ambitious, that is courageous, that is bold, that is unapologetic. When we see through the lens of love, when we see ourselves through the lens of love, we're able to do things and pursue things with a greater certainty, with a greater confidence. We're not looking for validation anywhere else because we are loved. So I want to encourage you to look at your life. Look at areas of your life where fear is prevalent and ask yourself, what is the narrative that I'm telling myself about this situation or about this perspective? What is it that I believe about myself? When you look at what you believe, I want you to apply a new perspective from the lens of love. Is this true? If it's not true, what is the truth? See yourself through a lens of compassion. See yourself through the lens of peace. See yourself through the lens of purpose. See yourself through the lens of acceptance. And when you see yourself through that lens, you allow yourself room to grow, to expand, to transform, to evolve. You give yourself grace. You know what? All I need to do is take a step forward. I don't need to be fearful because all I'm doing is taking a step forward. And if that step forward reveals that I need to learn something new, I need to expand my perspective in some way, I'm willing to do that. Because I don't need to question my weaknesses because I'm already loved and accepted just the way I am. But what I can do is grow. What I can do is learn. What I can do is add to myself. It's only up from here. It's only up from here. There's no setbacks. There's just steps forward. It's just steps forward. It's just something that I need to learn. I want to encourage us to live a fearless life, to live a life that is rooted in the love of God and the identity that He has built within you. That you now will be bold and unapologetic in who you are so that you could accomplish the very purpose that He has designed you for. This is my admonition for you this week. Let us be bold and unapologetic in who God has created us to be. Let us have our identity rooted in who He has created us to be. And as we have accepted that we are just His children, loved beyond all measure, that we can walk in the purpose that He has created for us. As we grow, as we glow, and as we be brilliant. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.